Introducing the new adapted species, the Electoro-Electoceros. The Electoro-Electoceros was adapted from the narwhal, which was a species of whale. It was designed to be able to live underwater without the need to come to the surface, and it can communicate using electricity. The original animal looked at was the narwhal, or the Monodon monoceros. The narwhal is part of the Monodontidae family, and shares the title with 3 other animals, including the beluga whale and the Denebola brachycephala, which is now extinct. All animals in this family are piscivores, which means they eat fish. They're also considered to be precocial, meaning that they're able to move and live independently from the moment they're born. Monodontidae are also migratory, which means that they move from place to place following the seasons of the year. One of the visual distinctive features of the family are the globose forehead, which means that they've got a circular forehead with a globe shape at the end. Monodontidae also have limited teeth. The beluga whale only has 2 teeth, and the narwhal has 1 tooth as well as its horn. Some of the features that made the narwhal species different to those in the family were the fact that it has a dominant hierarchy system. This means that different members of a social group have more or less access to resources and mates. Narwhals don't fight among each other, but rather have a natural hierarchy with a group alpha. Another distinctive feature of the narwhal is its horn, which is actually an enlarged canine tooth. This gives them the unique seros at the end of their species name, similar to animals like the rhinoceros. We're going to look at some of the threats to the narwhal, and that's going to justify some of the adaptations we've put in place for the Electoro-Electoceros. The first major threat to the narwhal is the human shipping industry, though not for the reasons that you might think. Narwhals communicate using acoustics. This means that they send sound vibrations through the water to communicate with others. Narwhals use acoustic communication to find mates in the wild and to stay together with their pods. They also communicate amongst themselves to warn of incoming predators, which keeps them alive. When human ships move through narwhal territories, however, they create noise pollution, which interrupts the acoustic frequencies that narwhals use to communicate. This means that they are no longer able to warn each other of danger and unable to find mates in the wild. Because the narwhal relies on a noiseless environment, and noise is not a living thing, this is an abiotic factor which affects the ecosystem in a negative way. As an adaptation to this problem, we looked at another amphibious creature, the electric eel. The electric eel has a specific organ that translates an electrical signal, which is useful not only to find prey, but also thought to play an important role in finding and choosing a mate. The benefit of an electrical signal is it doesn't rely on noise, so by adding this adaptation to the narwhal, we allow them to communicate in order to reproduce and also warn off predators without having to worry about noise pollution. The second threat to the narwhal is human ships, but this time it probably is what you think. Because narwhals are mammals, they need to come up to the surface in order to fill their lungs. When human ships come passing by, they're more likely to be hit, which leads to the death of narwhals and reduces their numbers in their ecosystem. Narwhals play an important part in their ecosystem, as they provide a food source for predators like orca whales, but they also carry a number of parasites and decomposers within the ecosystem that are essential for breaking down and recycling nutrients. When narwhals are removed from the ecosystem because of human activity, this is a biotic factor, as it's the removal of a living thing that has an impact on other living things. The adaptation proposed in this case is to equip the narwhal with gills. Gills allow animals to draw oxygen from the water without the need to come up for air. If the narwhal is equipped with gills, it no longer needs to come up to the surface, which removes the risk of being hit by a human ship. This also helps the narwhal avoid its third threat, which is pollution and oil spills. Mammals are most significantly affected by oil spills as they need to come up for air, which exposes them to the dangerous chemicals which often float on the surface of the ocean due to their lighter density. If the narwhal doesn't have to come up for air anymore, then the chances of it making contact with the poisonous chemicals is reduced. In reclassifying the narwhal to create the Electoro-Electoceros, we had to look at its classification system and make appropriate changes. The Electoro-Electoceros is still an animal, so it still remains in the kingdom of Animalia. The Chordata phylum includes any animal that has a spinal cord. Because our adaptations have not interfered with the bone structure of the animal, it remains in this phylum. The first change we made in the classification system was due to the fact that the Electoro-Electoceros no longer requires lungs in order to breathe, which means it's no longer a mammal. The substitute class is made up of bony fish, which fits the Electoro-Electoceros perfectly. Because the Electoro-Electoceros is so large, we had to look at fish species that were also large, so this particular order applies to large sharks. One of the characterizing features of this order, however, is that all of the animals within have 2 dorsal fins and 5 gill slits. In order to adapt it to fit within this order group, we had to add 2 dorsal fins onto their back. In deciding the family group, we continued to look down the shark pathway. This particular family group were the only sharks that showed signs of being migratory, which suited the Electoroelectosaurus because they're still migratory. We had to create a whole new genus, as there are no other shark-like creatures that create electricity. While the Electoroelectosaurus is unique, it's not impossible that another shark-like creature that's able to communicate using electricity is discovered in the world. As a result, the species name has changed to Electo, which represents electricity, and the Ceros, which represents the horn. This is our image of the final animal, the Electoroelectosaurus. I hope you've enjoyed learning about this exciting new species.